Hey, this is Gleb Bakhmatov, and this is another example of cypress-magic-backend plugin in action. One thing that marking the backend completely allows you to do is to make tests that are dependent on each other independent. So to demonstrate this, let's look at this spec. The first test in this spec, and there are only two tests, adds AddToDo. So basically it adds two to-dos. It resets to-dos to nothing on the backend if it's not the playback mode, and then adds to-dos through the UI. Okay, so your application ends up with two items saved on the backend. Excellent. The second test in this spec is called DeleteSet, and it starts with the previous state left on the server. All it does is just visits the server and checks if there are two items loaded. And this assumes that the previous test has finished successfully. Now, ordinarily, I like each test to be independent. So probably I would reset the backend using side request here and create two items, but imagine you don't know how to do it, right? You just run those tests together all the time. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna say npm run dev, which starts the server, the front end, and open Cypress. And let's just see if this test by itself, right, works. So first we run both of them. And I'll say start, deletes to-dos. First test adds two to-dos. We have a delay, that's why the app is a little bit slow, because the API requests take a second. So the second test, deletes AddToDo, loads the page. It has two items. Those items were added in the previous test, and then deletes one of those items. Excellent. If we go back and we run just deletes AddToDo by itself, guess what? It fails, right? Because, well, there is only one item. It remains from the last time we executed this test, it deleted one item and one item was left. And if we run the test, well, it no longer has the data created by the first test that we skipped. So what happens in our case if we use cypress-magic-backend plugin? I'm going to enable both tests again. Okay, runs the first test, creates everything, deletes to-do, perfect. Both pass. Let's record it. So we need to record API requests at least once. So it records and creates a JSON file for each test. So right here, deletes to-dos. We can see those JSON files. So that's the first. That's the second one. Notice it just loads the items and then sends delete to-do with its ID. All right, so now let's go back and again run just the second test. And it fails as expected. But what happens if we run this in playback mode? I'm gonna click this button, playback, and the test is instantly passing. And why is it passing? Well, because the initial visit that calls getToDos is now marked and receives two items every time we run it. There is no longer need to run previous tests just to create those two items on the backend. Instead, they are already there because they are marked from a JSON file. So now both tests can be run independently from each other and they both are passing.